In a serene monastery nestled deep in the misty mountains, there lived a humble monk named Tenzin. Surrounded by ancient trees and the gentle whispers of mountain winds, the monastery was a place of refuge and learning. Tenzin had dedicated his life to the teachings of the Buddha, striving to embody kindness, wisdom, and selflessness in every action. His fellow monks admired his tireless devotion, and the villagers in the valleys below often spoke of him as a living embodiment of compassion. Tenzin's reputation as a helper and healer grew far and wide. No matter the hour or the task, Tenzin was always there to lend a hand. Whether it was carrying heavy loads, mending broken roofs, or simply offering a comforting word, he never hesitated. His heart overflowed with the desire to ease suffering, and his gentle smile reassured everyone who crossed his path. One chilly morning, as the sun rose over the peaks, an elderly villager arrived at the monastery, breathless and distraught. "Tenzin," he pleaded, "my son is gravely ill. He cannot walk, and I am too weak to carry him to the healer in the next village. Please, I beg you, help me." Without a moment's hesitation, Tenzin bowed his head and said, "Lead the way." The path to the healer's village was long and treacherous, winding through dense forests and steep rocky trails. When they arrived at the villager's home, Tenzin gently lifted the boy onto his back. Though the child's frail body weighed heavily on him, Tenzin pressed on, step by step, never wavering. He whispered soothing words to the boy and reassured the father with quiet strength. The journey took hours, and by the time they reached the healer, Tenzin's legs were trembling with exhaustion. Yet as he watched the healer attend to the boy, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had helped ease a family's suffering, and that was enough for him. News of Tenzin's selfless act spread quickly through the valley. Soon, more villagers came to him with their troubles. A farmer asked for help repairing a broken fence that threatened his crops. A widow arrived with her starving children, hoping Tenzin could find them food. A merchant, burdened by heavy sacks of grain, begged for assistance in transporting them to the market. Each time, Tenzin said, "Yes." He carried, mended, and gave, his heart swelling with the joy of helping others. But as the days turned into weeks, the requests grew more frequent and more demanding. The villagers, seeing Tenzin's willingness, began to rely on him for every difficulty. They no longer asked if he was able. They simply assumed he would help. Tenzin's life became a whirlwind of service. His mornings, once devoted to meditation and reflection, were now consumed by errands. His body, accustomed to the stillness of the monastery, ached from constant labor. Yet he pressed on, believing that his suffering was a small price to pay for the well-being of others. One day, as the sun blazed overhead, a merchant came to Tenzin with a desperate plea. "The grain harvest is ready," he said, "but the sacks are too heavy for me to carry alone. If I don't deliver them to the market today, my family will go hungry." Tenzin, though weary from a sleepless night, nodded. "I will help you." He hoisted the heavy sacks onto his back and began the long journey to the market. The sun beat down mercilessly, and each step felt like an eternity. Sweat dripped from his brow, and his legs wobbled under the weight. Finally, as they neared the market, Tenzin's strength gave out. He collapsed to the ground, the sacks tumbling from his shoulders. The merchant, unable to lift the sacks himself, stood helplessly beside him. Other villagers gathered around, murmuring among themselves. For the first time, they saw the toll that their requests had taken on Tenzin. He, who had always seemed so strong, was now too weak to stand. Back at the monastery, the head monk, an elder with a calm presence and wise eyes, approached Tenzin. Sitting beside him, the monk spoke gently. "Tenzin, my child, you have been strong and tireless for many seasons, yet now you falter. Tell me, what has changed?" Tenzin, ashamed, lowered his gaze. "Master, I have been helping others, as you taught me. I wanted to bring them peace and relief. But now, I feel empty." The head monk smiled knowingly. "Tenzin, you misunderstand the teachings. Helping others is indeed noble, but you have forgotten something essential. When your own cup is empty, how can you pour water for anyone else?" Tenzin furrowed his brow. But isn't it my duty to help those in need? If I say no, how will they manage? The monk placed a hand on Tenzin's shoulder. True compassion, my dear Tenzin, is not about saying yes to every request. It is about knowing when to give and when to step back. By draining yourself, you do not truly help others. You harm yourself. And when you are harmed, your ability to serve diminishes. Tenzin sat in silence as the monk continued. In Buddhism, we learn that even attachment to noble acts can lead to suffering. You have become attached to the idea of always helping, believing it is your duty to sacrifice yourself. But sacrifice, without balance, is not compassion, it is self-destruction. Tend to your own flame, Tenzin, for only then can you light the way for others. Over time, Tenzin began to understand the wisdom of his master's words. He slowly rebuilt his strength, dedicating time to his own well-being. He meditated, ate nourishing meals, and allowed himself to rest. When villagers came to him with requests, he listened carefully. If he had the energy, he gladly helped. But if his body or mind felt depleted, he learned to say, "I cannot help you today, but I will pray for your strength." At first, the villagers were frustrated. They had grown used to Tenzin's unwavering yes. But as they watched him regain his vitality, they began to respect his boundaries. They saw that when he did help, it was with a renewed energy and genuine care. His efforts became more impactful, not because he did more, but because he gave from a place of abundance rather than exhaustion. Tenzin's journey became a lesson for the entire village. They learned that selflessness without self-care is unsustainable. They began to help one another instead of relying solely on Tenzin, creating a stronger, more compassionate community. Years later, Tenzin's story was told across the valley as a parable of balance and wisdom. It taught that true kindness does not mean giving everything away. It means giving wisely, with a heart that is whole and a spirit that is strong. And so, the lesson echoed through the mountains. You cannot light the path for others if you let your own flame go out. Moral of the story: helping others is a noble pursuit, but it must come from a place of strength, not sacrifice. Balance kindness with self-care, for only then can your compassion truly shine.